Hey Gators and sports fans, get all your Gator talk, news, analysis, and opinions on the Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform or watch us on Facebook Live between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. every weekday. Pod Up, because we are Gator fans. So say it's great to be a Florida Gator.
Good morning and welcome to a Thursday edition of Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. We got a good show. We got Brent Beaird here in just a second, and then we'll be joined on our Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup. Mike Ridaught playoffs start tonight here in the state of Florida. I want to thank all the veterans out there. Happy Veterans Day for all that you do for our protection and our country. And I don't know why they don't have more than one Veterans Day. One is not enough, in my opinion. But let's go to the Titan MR hotline, and we're joined by Brent Beaird. You can follow Brent on Twitter at Brent Beaird. Good morning, Brent. How are you?
Shane, I'm doing well. I certainly echo your sentiments on Veterans Day. Hope it's a great day for veterans. I know there's a lot of restaurants who are either having a discount or free meals and things like that, which is totally appropriate. And I'm with you. They deserve more than that during this time. But I'm doing well. Another very interesting Saturday coming up after we had a couple weeks in October where pretty much everybody took turns having an off week. So glad to get it going again.
Yep, and the college football playoffs came out Tuesday night. I think there was a little bit of controversy in there where they had Michigan ranked ahead of Michigan State, having played like 12 days prior.
Yep.
Michigan State won the game. Anything else surprise you at the rankings?
No, not really. I mean, basically everything else was about the same. A lot of the teams stayed in the top five, even though they struggled. Alabama and Ohio State, for instance. Cincinnati is pretty much, I think, where they're going to be. I really don't see, unless we just have carnage, which is always possible, ahead of them, that the committee will put Cincinnati into the playoffs. I still will be surprised if that happened. Your point about Michigan State is a good one. Sometimes the committee doesn't. They value head-to-head, but it's not the all-encompassing evaluation for them, so they will do some strange things along that line. Oklahoma has 3 tough games at the end of the year that will help them, but I still say, Shane, that with all the weeping and gnashing of teeth this week, that a lot of this will play itself out, particularly in the Big Ten, with Michigan State, Notre Dame still hanging around too, and you see Texas A&M kind of slowly moving up into the poll. But beyond that, pretty much what we thought would happen.
Yeah, we got a couple of comments here, and I'm going to shoot them to our producer. I'm sure he saw them. They're talking about the live feed's been pausing in and out all week. That's probably a Facebook issue, I would think. Okay, so I just got word it is a Facebook issue this week, so you can always watch it live with no problems, apparently on YouTube and Twitter if you want to do that. Then you can't communicate with me, though, on Facebook. So I like it when people shoot questions. John's got one here, Brent, for us. I heard a comment last night that the guys in the college football playoff room could be looking at OU as an SEC school and do not and do they looking at Cincinnati as a Big 12 team or a Group of 5 team? I'm not sure what his question is there. Are you surprised OU still at 8?
Yeah, they are, and I'm just wondering if the question might be if they're kind of looking ahead to either at the end of the year or maybe even with something out in the future, but. I mean, look, these are human beings making these decisions, so I still think there's a lot of probably things that go in there, but maybe more unconsciously than consciously at times, Shane. So the committee is an interesting commodity, to say the least.
No doubt. Brent, as we mentioned many times, you're a Heisman Trophy voter. I can't remember the last time in college football when I don't want to say there's a whole lot of hype out there about the Heisman. You just don't hear about it right now. And maybe because nobody's having that Heisman type year.
Right. Right.
Most people thought the Michigan State running back, Kenneth Walker, was the leader. They lost a game. He still played well. I mean, I don't think it should be on the best team. It should be the best player in college football.
Right.
As of right now, who do you think the top 3, 4, 5 Heisman Trophy candidates are?
Well, I would go. Walker's certainly in there. There's no doubt about that. I mean, he had 166 yards. He did fumble, but that shouldn't take him away. C.J. Stroud of Ohio State, I think, is also in there. Someone who has really shot up the ranks is Will Anderson of Alabama, the linebacker, who has just been an absolute terror on quarterbacks and with tackles for loss. Jordan Davis of Georgia, the defensive tackle, I still think is involved. Now that's 2 defensive players. I know people may be surprised at that, but look, it's still for the best player, regardless of what side of the ball you play on. Bryce Young from Alabama is still mentioned. Kenny Pickett of Pittsburgh is still mentioned too. Good point, Shane. They're so close. No one is dominating at this point. And again, it's still too early, frankly. I mean, I never vote until the championship games are over. There's still a lot of ball to be left to play, and there's still some guys who could win this thing during the rest of November.
Yep. We got a Facebook Live from John, brought to you by Metal Law. He says, Adam Anderson, the kid from Georgia, turned himself in yesterday. Yeah. What's that mean for Georgia's defense? I mean, I think he's a pretty good player, but they got a ton of players.
They do. I mean, he's a starter, and it hurts them. What we're talking about here is he turned himself in, and he was officially charged with sexual assault on a woman. So, which is, again, we use allege until all that's proven. But Shane's right. They've got a tremendous amount of depth. They're very strong at linebacker, so they will be fine. I mean, when you lose a guy like that, it always hurts your depth to some degree. But if this is somebody else besides Georgia, I think it will make a huge difference. I mean, will it hurt them? Yes, but will it be devastating? No.
Brent, I talked about this earlier in the week, and it's just amazing when I read it here with your notes. The worst Power 5 records the last 10 games against Power 5 opponents. When you reel off those teams, it is hard to believe that the Mighty Gators are in that list.
Well, it is. And another team is in that list is Nebraska, who people think should be much better than they are. Trev Alberts, the AD, has given that staff another year, which is interesting. See what happens with that is Scott Frost, basically, if he coaches next year, his buyout will be cut in half, is what it amounts to. So don't think that's not involved with this. But to your point, that is amazing. I mean, we're talking about Kansas, Vanderbilt, Arizona, Duke, Florida, Indiana, which is a surprise this year that they're 2-8. Nebraska's 2-8. With that, well, in other words, this is not their overall record, but it's the Power 5 records in the last 10 games versus Power 5 opponents. So that it's a real struggle right now as far as the Gators are concerned. Yes.
Yeah, and the 3 Power 5 schools here in the state of Florida combined 12-15. Miami's the only one with a winning record. As of now, do you think Manny Diaz has saved his job, or is it still up in the air?
Probably. I mean that's debatable, but now you never say never with things like this. They do play Florida State this week, and that's going to be important. Now, offensively, they've really done well. And I'll be brief on Miami, but Tyler Van Dyke's done a great job. The new quarterback, who has kind of taken over for Derek King. Jalen Knight at running backs has played well. Charleston Rambo, the Oklahoma transfer, has really stepped up, and he is playing well also here. But frankly, amazingly to me, Miami has been as good as anybody in the state right now. Beating Pitt and NC State, I think, caught a lot of people's attention. So I would say probably for now he's okay. I mean, they're only 5-4. That's nothing to have a parade about. But at the same time, they have made some progress, and that's important.
Dan has a question for you here on Facebook Live, brought to you by Melton Law. He said, I saw that Bama defensive back Banks is entering the transfer portal. Any chance he will come to UF?
Look, now there's a chance he could go anywhere. He's a good player, frankly, and then that's a blow to Alabama's depth at this point too. So, I mean, if Florida ended up getting him, I'll say this: they could certainly do a lot worse. And Marcus Banks, frankly, early in the year had several interceptions. So he is a good player.
Joseph is back talking about the Georgia kid that got in trouble, saying, I would have thought he would have had to be with the team at the hotel that night. Makes me wonder what all Kirby allows up there. I want to say the allegations were, I think, on that Wednesday or Thursday night, if I'm not mistaken. Team catches a plane Friday afternoon to go to St. Augustine before the Florida-Georgia game. Isn't that kind of how it worked out there,
yes.
Brent?
Yes. Yeah. I saw where like you did. It happened more midweek before they were all together. So yes, and again, sometimes we think the coaches have control over these guys 24 hours a day, but Shane, as you know, that's just not the case.
Not anymore. Brent, before we jump into the conference, there were 9 coaching vacancies. 2 have been filled. Georgia Southern with Helton from USC, and then Texas Tech hired. I keep wanting to call him Jerry Maguire. It's not Jerry Maguire.
Yeah,
Joey Maguire on a Baylor assistant. Was that a surprise hire to you?
Yeah, it was, because frankly, a lot of people were scratching their head about who this guy was or is. Now, college football has a lot of great irony in it. So, as you can imagine, Baylor plays Texas Tech in 3 weeks. So that will be very interesting how they handle this. Shane, the thing we're seeing right now is just unprecedented. Would be firing coaches as early as they are, basically in mid-season. We used to never see this, but as I'm sure you've talked about this week, we're seeing more and more of it because of the early signing period. People may not realize this. Today is 11/11. The early signing period is around December the 15th. So that's only a month away, right? And that's the reason we are seeing this activity with coaches.
Yeah, no doubt. Turn your car or truck into a rolling billboard for your business or brand with an eye-catching vehicle wrap from Wrap Spot. This November, mention promo code Shane, receive 13% off your vehicle wrap. Speaking with Brent Beaird on the Titan Mar hotline on this Veterans Day, we'll have our good friend Mike Ridaught talking high school playoffs in the second portion of today's program. Brent, jumping into the conference, let's start with Alabama. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see that game because we were called the Florida-South Carolina game was at the same time.
Sure.
But goodness, LSU played them tough. Obviously, there's some issues, especially on the offensive line. Alabama cannot run the football right now.
Well, they're struggling because of the issues on the offensive line, particularly on the right side of the offensive line. And most of the criticism has been looked at with number 79, Chris Owens, who has struggled this year, to say the least. So that Bama's got to do something about the offensive line. They've got to do something with max protection. Now, you can explain this better than most. In the A&M game, the same thing was happening to Alabama. They made some changes in the second half. They put two backs in the backfield, and I think they did something to try to chip the linebackers and defensive ends of A&M, and it created more time for Bryce Young. Bryce Young, the quarterback's also got to get rid of the ball quicker. So you've got a double-edged sword here, and frankly, now they've got New Mexico State this week. They need to play some different players, and they need to play more on the offensive line. But that's a real problem right now for Alabama, and they've got a really difficult ending of the season. They've got Arkansas at home. They go to Auburn, and then if they win the division, then they play Georgia. So, and I'm just being frank with you right now. Right at this point, Alabama's got to come up with something, because they would not fare well against Georgia in the SEC championship game if they were playing them Saturday.
No, John says on Facebook Live, Alabama has Doug Marrone at O-line coach and O'Brien at OC, and all the Bama fans are after them with pitchforks.
That I can tell you, Alabama fans are not happy about that. O'Brien, I mean, they're criticizing him because he's in the press box. I mean, that really doesn't matter. Frankly, it's whatever the preference is and whatever Saban wants. But you're right. The criticism has been thrown toward both those guys. Obviously, Marrone coming from the Jaguars and trying to salvage his career at Alabama.
Yep. Chris says here on Facebook Live, Brent, listen to this. Shane, I bet I am the first person ever to be listening to your show while skinning a deer.
That's tremendous. I give him a lot of credit.
That is awesome.
Hey, Shane, would he be fair if you sent us some venison at some point?
There you go. Yeah, that's right. Brent, so a big game in Baton Rouge. Arkansas, who is already bowl eligible, is going to LSU. This is a huge rivalry game. I believe it's a night game. How do you see this game playing out?
Listen, it really is. Arkansas still right now, I think, is playing a bit better in this game, which will make a difference. I mean, you've got two really good quarterbacks, I think, in this game too, who have been rather expressive. KJ Jefferson continues to play well. Obviously, Mac Johnson does too. For LSU, their defensive back Cordell Flott, Flott, is coming back. Now LSU has all three starting guards out on the offensive line. Their injuries have been just frankly unbelievable. Big win for Arkansas last week over Mississippi State. Arkansas was running the ball really well, 200-plus yards rushing in the last 4 games. This is an amazing stat for this game. In 2019, Arkansas was a 43-point underdog to LSU. This week, and I'm sure that's probably changed a little bit, Arkansas is a 3-point favorite. Have you ever heard of such?
I haven't. And is this game in Baton Rouge?
Let me double check that.
I think it is.
To see. Yes, it is. Arkansas at LSU. That's right.
Yeah, who would ever thought Arkansas would be favored at LSU? Brent, real quick, I want to come back to the Auburn-Mississippi State game. I want to jump to the Florida game because we got a couple of Facebook Lives here I want to ask you before they disappear. Camp says on Facebook Live, brought to you by Metal Law, I haven't been able to listen the last couple of days, so I'm not sure if we have discussed this. Have we talked about Florida's DC options and possible O-line replacements? What are you hearing, Brent?
Well, I mean, I'm hearing just various things. Phil Trautwein at Penn State with the offensive line situation. I think the name I'm hearing about more than anything else for defense coordinator is Travarius Robinson, T-Rob, as he's like to be called. So I'll throw those two out there. Now, I will say this. Whoever they hire, if I'm that guy, I'm curious what you think about this. I would want a multi-year contract before
Absolutely.
I come.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Shane, I think that's a must, don't you?
Yeah, it's got to be a guaranteed 2 or 3 year deal because there's no guarantee you'll last past next year.
No.
I've heard the same names. People keep bringing up Charlie Strong and Will Muschamp. That, folks, that is not going to happen. There's no reason why Charlie Strong would leave. I don't want to call the NFL a cake. You don't have to recruit. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
The NFL.
Correct.
I mean, he it's not like he's a youngster. He does not want to have to recruit. And then why would Will Muschamp, who's coaching for his alma mater, why would he want to come to Florida to be a defense coordinator?
Let me tell you, let me add this to it real quick. If Dan Lanning gets a job somewhere else, Will Muschamp may be your Georgia defensive coordinator. So
right, which technically that defense. It's Kirby, Will, and Dan Lanning. They're the ones on the headset.
Right. That's right.
Will is on the field coaching now. He's, quote, a special teams coordinator. But I'll be damned, I can promise you he ain't worried about the punt team very much. He's helping coach that defense.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Dan wants to know here on Facebook Live, will AR-15 play much Saturday? I'm sure he will. But, I don't know what you take from it. I mean, it's Sanford, folks. They're a bad football team. I don't know what's going to happen. But we're not a good football team either. So, I could see people getting excited if we win this game 45-10, Brent, and we make some big plays. But this is like going from junior high football to junior college football. It's a huge difference.
Yeah.
And so,
sure it is. Yeah. And listen, Sanford's not going to win the game, but Sanford has a offense that averages 450 yards and 37 points, and they've got a pretty good passing game, which may surprise folks a little bit. But people need to understand that even the Sanfords of the world can give you some problems. But you're right about that. I'm not worried about Sanford for them, Shane, as much as I am with Missouri, and especially right now with Florida State.
Yeah, it's got to figure out somehow to win 2 games to get bowl eligible. Brent, another big game in the conference, Auburn and Mississippi State. Auburn coming off a tough loss at A&M. I still, to this day, I believe Brian Harsin should be coach of the year. I just think, just watching them play, they look like a different football team.
Well, the greatest thing to me that he has done is and I know he didn't play well, but Bo Nix is a much better quarterback now than he was in the beginning of the year. So, I'm with you on that. Now, Auburn's lost 3 games now, but they lost against good teams, Penn State, Texas A&M, and Georgia. And look, I'm with you, Shane. This can be a very good game. Frankly, Will Rogers completing 75% of his passes. He's got 3 more touchdowns in 6 games. And the Auburn secondary can be thrown on. So that's going to be interesting how they deal with that, too. So now Mississippi State's got to get a kicker. The kicking games cost them 2 games, the Memphis game and a punt return that the officials just blew. And then last week they missed 3 field goals, which would have made a big difference last week. But look, State wins some games like this from time to time. To me, it's a maturity game for Auburn. How quickly can they get up and be able to get ready to play? So, Shane, frankly, I think this will be one of the better games of the day.
Yeah, it will, and I still think Auburn's going to give Alabama all they want, and don't rule out the Aggies going to Atlanta. Another intriguing game in the league. Georgia travels to Neyland Stadium. Tennessee is playing very well, and somebody told me a stat the other day on my show, because I didn't get to watch Tennessee Kentucky either because I was calling our game, that Tennessee only had the ball for like 15 minutes of the entire game and scored like 48 points. Here's
what's amazing about that game. As a matter of fact, they had the ball for less than 14 minutes. Kentucky, get this, this still surprises me. Kentucky ran 99 plays. 99 plays in the game. Tennessee had the ball less than 14 minutes, and they still won. Tennessee this year has 5 touchdowns, 70-plus yards. They had 5 touchdowns of 70-plus yards from 2017 to 2020.
Wow.
That's how much that Josh Heupel has improved this situation. Now, get this, and I was surprised he did this. Kirby Smart actually admitted this week that they have been working on Tennessee tempo for weeks, and that doesn't bode well for Tennessee, to be honest with you. Jameer Saylor, their left tackle at Georgia, may be back this week. We'll see. J.T. Daniels made an appearance last week in the Missouri game. They shut Tyler Beatty down for 41 yards. Now, what does all this mean? No one scored more than 13 points on Georgia the whole year. Does that mean Tennessee scores 17? Well, maybe. But I'll say this. If they can protect Hendon Hooker, they can make some plays in the Georgia secondary. I'm not saying Tennessee's going to win, but this may be a challenge. And frankly, I think Georgia could use that.
Yeah, there, no question. It's going to be a fun game to watch. That place is going to be packed. It's going to be rowdy.
It will.
Can't wait to see it. We got a couple of texts here on the Titan Mark text line, Brent. Comes from Darryl, says, good morning, guys. Brent, do you think Tennessee's offense can have success on Georgia defense and give them their toughest test of the year? I think this is by far the best offense that Georgia has seen up to this point. Another text here, I don't know who it's from. It says, of course, you're correct about Sanford, but I remember Georgia Southern a few years ago. Gators still got to be ready to play. Yeah, the triple option's tough to stop. Brent, probably the one game that's getting the most love, I think game day's going there to Oxford. The Aggies are rolling in to play the Rebels. Should be an entertaining game.
Well, I think it will be, particularly if Matt Corral is healthy, and I think he will be. I mean, you've got one of the best offenses in the nation against right now is the number 2 scoring defense in Texas A&M. This is a nice combination in the chain between Jeff Lebby, the offensive coordinator at Ole Miss, and Mike Elko, the D coordinator at A&M. Mm-hmm. I mean, you've got some real stars in this game. Isaiah Spiller, Davon Achane, Zach Calzada, who is a serviceable quarterback, and Aya Smith. Those guys are game breakers for A&M. Jerron Ely is too. They really did a good job last week. Ole Miss did against Liberty. I don't know if you had a chance to watch that game, but they throttled Malik Willis. Ole Miss had 9 sacks. That's the most they've had in decades, 9, which is amazing. But Sam Williams, the defensive lineman at Ole Miss, has 10.5 sacks. So he has really done well. I still think A&M's probably too much for them, although some people think that Ole Miss will be able to win the game. I mean, A&M will win the game, and Ole Miss will give them a lot of trouble. That'd be a big win for Ole Miss, but you're right. Easily one of the headliner games in the league this week.
Yeah, I think the Aggies defense and the way the Aggies can run the football, Ole Miss still can't stop anybody. It should be a fun game to watch. No. I think it's on 7 o'clock, or it's one of the later games that you can watch if you go to the Gator game. Brent, before we let you go, you got any nuggets for us?
Yeah, a couple games that we've had so many games. It's hard to cover all of them. Missouri hosts South Carolina in a game that, frankly, is the winner of this game is much closer to a bowl game. I mean, that's amazing to me. Tyler Beatty from Missouri, even though he didn't play well against Georgia, and who does, still leads the SEC in rushing, so that is huge at this point for them. And look, I still give Shane Beamer some credit. There's no way Florida should have lost that game, but They're playing hard for him, that they are recruiting well. So I think that certainly is a big help. Kentucky's got to get off the snide and beat Vanderbilt. I think they will. Kentucky's certainly been disappointing. And I think, frankly, Shane, their lack of depth catches up with them in November. And as much as I like Mark Stoops, that's something that's got to be corrected over the next few years.
Yeah, no doubt. Brent, good stuff as always, my man. Enjoy the weekend, and we will talk to you next week.
Good. Can't wait, Pat. Thank you.
That's Brent Beaird. Join us on the Titan MR Hotline. Again, you can follow Brent on Twitter at Brent Beaird. We're going to take our first time out. We'll come back. We're going to be joined by Mike Ridaught from the PrepZone.com and Main Street Daily News, talking high school football playoffs. Crank up tonight. You're watching and listening to Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, won't back down. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Great Clips, it's gonna be great. Our Gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, South State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Adams Rib Company, Doreen Wiebe Realtor, Caldwell Banker, MM Parish, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Wrap Spot, Okido America, Gators Dockside, Style Cuts, Big Mills Cheesesteaks. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit potupwithshane.com and click the advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure you follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Hi there, this is Steve Spurrier. On Monday, Florida's Rising Star Foundation will host a true legend NFL great, Rocky Bleier of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think you know they won 4 Super Bowls in a row. Rocky went to Vietnam, served for our country, got his leg almost blown off, came back, had several surgeries, and went on to play running back with Franco Harris on all those great Pittsburgh Steeler teams. He will be here to speak. I'll be there Monday night at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. A limited number of tickets are still available, and you can get them by going to FloridaRisingStars.com, and that will get you into this event Monday night, 5:30 to 8. I'll see you Monday night at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill for the event featuring Rocky Bleier.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Center State Bank is now South State Bank, but they still put business first. They understand that small businesses need a community business partner that they can rely on. South State still has 4 convenient Alachua County locations. South State Bank, banking for member FDIC. I want to thank Brent Beaird for joining us on the Titan MR Hotline. We're now going to go back to the Titan MR Hotline, and we're joined by our good friend who does a tremendous job covering high school sports in the North Central Florida area, Mike Ridaught from the PrepZone.com and Main Street Daily News. Good morning, Mike. How are you, buddy?
Good morning, Shane. It's a fun time of year with high school volleyball playoffs and the state semifinals on Saturday, high school football playoffs starting this week, and plus basketball, right around the corner too. Girls basketball starts next week. Boys is the week after that. So making that transition into the winter sports as well. So fun time of year.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Let's talk. You're probably not getting a whole lot of sleep because you're very busy covering all these sports. Let's first start with the playoffs start tonight. I know there's some games. Buchholz plays tonight at Citizens Field. Mm-hmm. But before we jump into the local schools, was there anything that came out with the brackets, because it's all done by RPI and this, that, and the other now? Were there any surprises throughout the state?
I think Union County may have been a little bit surprised because they were 10-0 and they got the number 3 seed. Chiefland suffered their first loss of the year in the SSAC playoffs, and they are the number 1 seed in 1A Region 3. So I think Union County felt a little slighted. This RPI formula is based on 35% of it is winning percentage, 35% is based on opponent's winning percentage, and 30% is based on your opponent's winning percentage. So there was some questions whether or not it should be tweaked a little bit. You could have a really good winning percentage, but you haven't played anybody. So that's a concern. If you have a 2 or 3 loss season, but you played some really good teams, your winning percentage is obviously going to be affected by that. And the same with your opponent's winning percentage if they played against you. So that's just one that I noticed in this area. I felt like Union County could have probably gotten a little bit higher seed. It's interesting because Union County, Andrew Thomas is the former Trenton coach who won 2 state titles at Trenton, and they will open up against Trenton on Friday night. So Thomas is going against his former team.
Yeah. All right. So the big schools tonight, obviously Buchholz, they're the 1 seed in the region, had a tremendous year. They have a chance to go deep into the playoffs, in my opinion. They're hosting a game tonight. You guys, the Main Street Daily News Prep Zone, y'all have the call. Mm-hmm. Marty Paulman does. I think you mentioned at Citizens Field. Yeah. They shouldn't have any problems with Fleming Island, right?
I wouldn't say any problem. It's a Fleming Island team that has rushed for 200-plus yards in their last 5 games, but that defensive front of Buchholz is very good. And, Buchholz has allowed less than 100 points all season long. So their defense has been one of the reasons why I feel like, they've been able to have the success that they've had. They've only got 1 loss this year. Their only loss this year was a game in which they had several turnovers. I think that kind of cost them a little bit against Cardinal Gibbons, which is, from Fort Lauderdale, the defending 4A state champion. That's the only loss on the schedule for Buchholz. And Shane, they're coming off a big win last week against Bartram Trail, which is an 8A team. In fact, Bartram Trail got the number 2 seed in 8A Region 2. So they've played a tough schedule. They hung 75 on Ocala Force a couple of weeks ago, too. They beat Bowles the week before that. So coming off such a big emotional win against Bowles, which was then the number 1 team in the state in 4A, and then hanging 75 on Force, and then beating Bartram Trail on the road, they're peaking at the right time. I think that they will win their region. I think they will beat Fleming Island tonight. They would hook up with either Fletcher or University over in Orange City in the Daytona area in the regional semifinals next week. Looking down the road a little bit, Spruce Creek likely an opponent. Or, Shane, it could be Niceville. That Niceville team only has 1 defeat. Remember, it was Niceville that beat Buchholz last year in double overtime. So Buchholz could see Niceville in the region final. That would be the day after Thanksgiving. So it's going to be tough. As you know, it gets tougher every week. But, certainly can't discount what Buchholz has been able to do this season with only 1 loss. They lost Quan Smith, their running back, but Quan Lee did return their outstanding receiver. Whittemore, their quarterback, is back. So it's a good team. 73 points allowed all year, and they put up 347 points. So it is. I think Buchholz is definitely the best team in the area. And when I say area, I mean the North Central Florida area.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. John says here on Facebook Live, Tallahassee Lincoln travels over to play the Gainesville High School tomorrow night. Kind of surprised that Lincoln was a 6 seed. Does that surprise you at all?
A little bit. They've got a record of 8-2 coming in. They have won 6 games in a row. They lost their 2 games early in the year. They actually opened the season with a loss to Niceville on the road. They also lost to Mosley on the road. So that's 2 playoff teams that they lost to. So, yeah, I think that would be a one that you could point to and ask, why are they a number 6 seed when they're 8-2 and they've obviously played against some tough teams. They actually beat Bartram Trail on the road as well, Shane. So, I could see that. I think that they may have deserved a higher seed in 6A. But if you look at the other teams in Class 6A in that region, Pine Forest, number 1 seed, no argument there. Columbia Riverside will be an interesting matchup. They're 4-5 seeds. I could see, Lincoln probably being ahead of one of those 2 teams. Riverside only lost 1 game, and that was to Columbia which had to rally and come back and beat Riverside. So that's a rematch of a district game that those two teams played during the regular season. Here's the thing that I don't like about the RPI, Shane. If in the higher classifications, 5A through 8A, if you win a district championship, we know that you automatically get a spot in the playoffs. However, they seed those district champions 1 through 4. So I would like to see it tweaked a little bit where, at Columbia, obviously, yes, they won a district title, but look at the losses that they've had this year too. I don't know if they're deserving of a number 4 seed just because they won their district championship. They finished with 4 losses this year. They lost to Bowles pretty handily. They lost to Trinity Christian. Again, smaller classification schools. Mm-hmm. Granted, those are perennial powers. They also lost to Madison County. They lost to Jacksonville Reign. So all of those schools, while they are traditionally pretty good, they are lower in classification. And Columbia is sitting with a number 4 seed when it may have taken away a higher seed for a team like Lincoln, because those 5, 6, 7, and 8 seeds, are based on RPI after they put in the 1 through 4 district champions. So from that standpoint, I think it might need to be tweaked a little bit, because I'm not sure Columbia is deserving of a 4 seed. Yeah,
we got a Facebook Live here. Made me laugh. Joseph, he says, Andrew Thomas is a heck of a coach and a good recruiter too. Laugh out loud. He's done a good job everywhere he's been. He Joseph, be careful because he listens to this program. Mike, talk about some of the other local teams in the playoffs.
Well, we'll start with 1A because there's a bunch of them. A lot of area teams. I mentioned Chiefland. They will get a bye as the number 1 seed in Region 3. Trenton and Union County are playing in that region. Fort White is also in that region. Fort White will play Lafayette out of Mayo. Winner gets Chiefland. Winner of that Union County Trenton game gets Hilliard. So Hilliard got that number 2 seed, where I think Trenton, maybe Union County was probably deserving of the number 2, maybe even a number 1. The only problem with Union County's schedule, if you look at the teams that they played, the record-wise, I think they got hurt by that. But some of that wasn't their fault, Shane, because Union County had to reschedule a couple of games. Mm-hmm. So, they did what they were supposed to do. They took care of business. Hawthorne is the number 1 seed, so they will receive a bye down in Region 4. Stark Bradford will be at home against Newberry, even though Newberry got beat last week by South Sumter, which is a 4A playoff team. The Panthers did make the postseason. Winner of that will have a tough one, though. They'll have to go to Pahokee, which is the number 2 seed in that region. Hawthorne would play either Wildwood or Fort Meade in the second round of the 1A state playoffs. As far as some of the other area teams, PK Young is in the postseason. They knocked off and handed Keystone Heights their first loss of the season last Friday. They finished strong. PK Young is the 4 seed. They will play the 5 seed Crescent City. Trinity Catholic is the number 1 seed, and they will play the winner of that game between PK Young and Crescent City in next week's 3A regional semifinals. Keystone Heights, I mentioned, only 1 loss. They got the number 3 seed in 4A Region 2. Looking at the Gainesville area, we've mentioned Gainesville, 3 seed, Columbia, 4 seed in 6A. And then, of course, Buchholz in 7A. And as far as the, stretching down a little bit south to Ocala, there's actually 5 Alachua County teams and 5 Marion County teams in the postseason. I mentioned Trinity Catholic receiving a bye. The other Ocala area teams, North Marion is a 4 seed in Class 5A. Denellen got the 2 seed in their region, Region 2. I think that they have a chance to make it to the region final. Vanguard is the number 1 seed. I totally agree with that. They put it on Bellevue, but Bellevue still made the postseason as the number 7 seed. So congratulations to Brady Ackerman in his first year. He gets the Rattlers in the postseason. So that's a look in the Gainesville, Ocala area. There's a bunch of teams, so it's good to see a lot of teams getting ready, geared up for the playoffs. And it's also good to return to some normalcy, because last year, because of COVID, every team that opted into the playoffs made the state playoffs. This year, we reverted, back to the regular format, where district champions for the higher classes, and then, RPI played a big part for a lot of these teams to get into the postseason.
We got a couple of Facebook Lives here brought to you by Metal Law. Joseph says, it's that time of the year, folks. A bunch of 1A schools with undefeated seasons and 1 loss gets their dreams crushed when the Cowboys roll into town. John says, Mike, what do you think of the top teams from the North Central Florida area in 1A getting beat up by Bluntstown? And he puts in parentheses Hilliard and Chiefland. Is he saying
the interesting thing about?
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the interesting thing about that Bluntstown Chiefland game was the fact that, you know, Chiefland has been very good against the run, and Bluntstown ran all over them. So I'm not sure what happened in that game. I haven't had a chance to talk to Coach Gore about that. You know, Chiefland, like I said, we could see Chiefland Union County in the region final. That would be a heck of a matchup there, and an opportunity for Union County to kind of prove their worth, you know, with that 10-0 record. And I think it's been like 8 years. I believe it's been 8 years since Union County went undefeated during the regular season. But yeah, that was a little bit of a surprise. Now, but Bluntstown also beat Baker, the defending state champions, too. Baker's got 2 losses. The other one was to Walton. So, you know, maybe Bluntstown is for real. They're ranked 5th in the state, and at least one of the state rankings. They're the number 1 seed down south in Region 2. But they would play, Shane, Madison County likely in the region final. And then the winner of that would likely play either Hawthorne or Pahokee coming over from Region 4. So we've got potentially some great matchups, but I wouldn't take, I wouldn't take Bluntstown for granted based on the fact that they've beaten last year's state champion and that they ran all over an undefeated Chiefland team. Again, that was Chiefland's only loss of the season.
Camp says here on Facebook Live, let's go Walton High Braves. As an alum and a member of the only state championship in school history, it's great to see we were back in the mix competing for a state championship. So Chris Doring Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today at 352-244-0840. Speaking with Mike Ridaught from the PrepZone.com and Main Street Daily News, talking high school sports on the Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup. Real quick, Mike, before we let you go, give us a recap.
Mm-hmm.
Where do we stand in high school volleyball right now?
Okay, we have reached the state semifinals coming up this Saturday. The region finals were last week, and at least up in the Gainesville area, Santa Fe. I mean, we got to start with Santa Fe. They're nationally ranked. I think they're going to win a state championship. They beat a good Bishop Kenny team out of Jacksonville to advance. So I like Santa Fe on Saturday. Dixie County advanced to their first state semifinal appearance in school history. They beat Bell to advance, but Shane, now here's the thing about the RPI too for volleyball, and they do this for football too. When you get through the regional final, they get reseeded in the state semifinal. So if you were looking at the bracket, you think, okay, well, the winner of Dixie County Bell is going to play the winner Taylor Newberry for the right to go to the state championship. Well, that's not what happened. When they reseeded them, Dixie County got the 4 seed, and they have to go to 7-time defending state champion Sneed this Saturday to play in the state semifinals in order to make the state championship game. So that's going to be a tough matchup for them. But still, nonetheless, great season for Dixie County. They got a first-year coach. It's been an incredible ride for them. And then the other team, Shane, is Oak Hall up in the Gainesville area. Oak Hall School in Class 2A. They have to make the trip down to Naples to play Seacrest Country Day. We actually had the Oak Hall volleyball team on our high school show last night. And, you know, they feel pretty confident, even though Seacrest Country Day has 4 6-footers. They feel pretty good about, And then there's no players on the Oak Hall roster that's 6 foot or taller. So it will be a tough matchup. But talking to Perry McDonald, the head coach last night, he said, just going back and watching the film again and again and again, I found a weakness. I found their kryptonite, and we hope to expose it. Obviously, he wouldn't share that information with me, but they feel pretty confident going on the road. They're going to leave on Friday, and then Seacrest Country Day is the number 1 team in Class 2A. So it will be a tough matchup. But those are 3 schools in particular, here in the Gainesville area, that will play for the right to go to the state championship. But it's been a great season overall here in the Gainesville area for high school volleyball.
It always is. All right, before we let you go, y'all got a call on the Buchholz game tonight, Gainesville High. Tell everybody how they can listen.
Thanks, Shane. Appreciate it. Yeah, Fleming Island will play at Buchholz tonight. That's actually a 7:00 game. We'll have pregame coverage. Marty Palmer, Nevada Colon calling the action, 6:45 pregame. You can listen to it online at mainstreetdailynews.com. And then tomorrow night, Cam Parker will join me for Tallahassee Lincoln at Gainesville. That's a 7:30 kickoff on Friday night. Both games at Citizens Field. We'll be on the air at 7 o'clock with our pregame coverage. You can listen to it on 106.9 FM in the Gainesville area, also online at imcountryradio.com. So we've got 2 playoff football games this week that we'll broadcast. We'll do the same next week as well, audio and radio for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, real quick, Mike, because I've never understood how it works here in the state of Florida. Buchholz, let's just use Buchholz for an example. They're the 1 seed in their region. If they win,
right,
do they host next week?
They would, because they're the number 1 seed. They will reseed them when they get to the state semifinal. So so for the first 3 rounds, Buchholz would be at home, and then if they were to win and get to the state semifinals, then they reseed everybody. But I think Buchholz, if they win those 3 games, I think they would be a number 1 seed and would host again, in the state semifinals. But yes, that number 1 seed, the higher seeded teams get to host, in other words, through the region finals.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to make sure. Good stuff as always, buddy. We appreciate your time.
All right, Shane. Thanks as well. Have a great day.
Yep, that's Mike Ridaught from the PrepZone.com and Main Street Daily News. Does a phenomenal job covering high school sports in the North Central Florida area. We're going to take our final time out, come back, and wrap up this Veterans Day program.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, won't back down. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Great Clips, it's gonna be great. Our Gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, South State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co. Some of our touchdown sponsors are MB Listing, McDonald's of Gainesville, My IT Masters, Gainesville Neon and Signs, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Avera and Smith, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Ruse Ogra Agent, State Farm Insurance, Silver Cube Billiards and Sports Bar. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit potupwithshane.com and click the advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure you follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Are you tired of being sidelined by nagging pain? Hi, I'm Emmett Smith, Hall of Famer and Dance with the Stars champion. Happy to tell you about QC Kinetics and their biologic therapies for treating pain without drugs or surgery.
Are you suffering from chronic pain in your hips, knees, shoulder, or lower back? Are you tired of living with arthritis pain? QC Kinetics offers natural pain treatment that can repair and restore damaged tissue in your joints.
Listen, I know pain, and I've seen firsthand how powerful biologic therapies can be. Patients at QC Kinetics rave about their result because they're getting their lives back. They're getting moving again.
These exciting regenerative treatments used to be available only to pro athletes like Emmett. Now they're available to anyone thanks to QC Kinetics. Call today for your free consultation.
Get long-lasting results from my friends at QC Kinetics.
Call QC Kinetics 352-400-4550. In North Central Florida, call 352-400-4550. QC Kinetics 352-400-4550.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Celebration Points, where the Gators go to celebrate with premium brands like Nike, Prime and Pearl, Riva Cinemas, Le Macaron, Dave & Buster's, Bass Pro Shops, and the HBC's restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, now serving brunch on Saturday and Sundays. We'll see you at Celebration Point, where the Gators go to celebrate. I want to thank Mike Ridaught and Brent Beaird join us on the Titan MRO hotline. Let's get to this day in sports before we get out of here. It's brought to you by our good friends at Comfort Temp. Comfort is our business. Peace of mind is our promise. Comfort Temp's now hiring team members with all levels of experience. Give them a call, 352-376-2366. This day in sports, in 1997, the NHL's new Columbus franchise, which began play in 2000, announced the team's name would be the Blue Jackets after soldiers in the Union Army during the American Civil War. I'm surprised they hadn't made them change their names with all the other name changes out there in the world. Anyway, hope you enjoyed today's program. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. Tell your friends and family to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, any of those platforms out there. Today's show's a wrap, brought to you by Wrap Spot. Have a great Veterans Day, and we appreciate all the veterans, everything that they've done so we can live a nice, safe life. Today's show's a wrap, brought to you by Wrap Spot. See you tomorrow, folks.
1st and 10. Matthews, near side, wide open, Alonzo Sullivan. He may go. Touchdown, Gators.